Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's Entrepreneurship. It is it for you, session number 1. This is a joint venture with Connecting Young Nebraskans with Nebraska Business Development Center. So thank you so much, Sara, for joining us and hosting these sessions. Just to remind everyone, I'm sure you know, but the CYN Summit will be this fall in Ord on October 22nd with a kickoff event the night before. Registration will be opening later in August, so be on the lookout for that. And we have another announcement that will go out tomorrow. CYN is hiring, so check your inbox tomorrow afternoon for the announcement on that. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Sara Bennett with Nebraska Business Development Center.
Thanks, Rhonda. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Sara Bennett, with Nebraska Business Development Center, and I'll dive in later a little bit more about who I am. But first, I'll tell you the why about why we're doing this. So it's a 4-part multi-session, and today is just about entrepreneurship in general and what does it take and what is this journey like? And so what the session today is going to look like is a little bit of content. And then some conversation for sure. We don't want to just be talked at. We want to talk to each other. And you'll get to hear from Chase, who is an entrepreneur extraordinaire with great stories for sure. And a mind unlike a lot of others. So he's a great one to learn from for sure. And then some reflection. So there's an opportunity then after each of these sessions, you'll have a tool to think about what we talked about in the session and reflect on what does this look like for your journey. So hopefully more than just talking at you, but an opportunity to get content, collaborate, and then reflect personally. So why are we here? Why did I approach Rhonda about this? So now, obviously, with COVID, there's been a lot of changes, but it's a pivotal time to think about what's next. So that's been a question for me for a while. I've been in my career for 10 years, and I said, so I want to try something new or do different things. And so maybe with COVID, that's where you're at in your world too. Maybe you're thinking what's next personally or what's next professionally. And so because that thought was in my mind, I said, Rhonda, let's do this multi-session series and let's make it about entrepreneurship and make it engaging. And she said, I like it. So let's hope you like it too. So why entrepreneurship? So that's my world for one, and with what Nebraska Business Development Center does. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But I thought it was another great topic specifically for CYN members. So here's what I think of when I know and have interacted with CYN members. So members, it's the ideal age, right? So we are in our careers, but we are growing those careers in at different phases. Maybe we've changed jobs a couple of times. We're professionals, right? We're committed in our careers, and that's important because entrepreneurship is not a passive activity. Visionaries. I've seen a lot of people who see things and want to get things done in their careers and their communities. And I think that's an exemplary trait for sure. Goal-oriented. If you attend any of the CYN summit sessions, you will find opportunities to do some goals and structuring with all of that. Curious. That's big in entrepreneurship. You have to be curious for sure. Difference makers, community-minded, success-driven, achievers, all these things I have seen across the board in CYN members, and those are key traits in entrepreneurship, really.
So she had
a little bit about me. So Sara Bennett with Nebraska Business Development Center. So I've been with an active member inside of Grand Island Young Professionals for 10 years now. That's actually how Rhonda and I met. Rhonda works for the Grand Island Chamber, and I have an office inside there. And so we've known each other for quite a while, and it's exciting that I still get to work with Rhonda in this capacity for sure. And then I've been part of CYN, I think, for probably 8 years, and then in my role with Nebraska Business Development Center for 10 years. And I'm looking at myself and I'm saying, what's next? What can I do to create additional opportunities? I love what I do, so I don't know that I'm jumping down the entrepreneurship route, but I love to talk to you about it and then figure out how our programming can shift to meet the needs of our evolving digital world because of COVID. So Nebraska Business Development Center, we're statewide. So I happen to be in central Nebraska, but I do work statewide in our various programs. So under our umbrella, as we call it now, we're a couple of programs. So the Small Business Development Center, helping businesses start and grow. Our Procurement Technical Assistance Center, which focuses on government contracting. You can't just call up the different government agencies and say, hey, I want to sell you my product or service necessarily. There's a process to do that. And our fine folks help you figure that out. I don't know anything about it for good reason, because it's a lot of paperwork, but they will help you navigate it. Innovation. So what that's looking at is kind of the high growth companies you hear about that get venture funding, or maybe they need R&D, and we help navigate that piece with the federal research and development. And then NU Connections, that's our arm to connect companies to the University of Nebraska. There's a lot of great facilities, assets, and people to connect with, but how to go about that can be cumbersome. And so our team helps you connect there. And then SourceLink Nebraska. This is where we're pulling together all of the different information about resource providers across the state and helping you connect with those. So NU Connections focuses on the university system, and SourceLink Nebraska focuses on resources statewide, whether that's your local economic development director in their agency, or maybe that's NBDC or REAP, or it's all sorts of agencies. There's a lot. And so this is to help you navigate that a little better. So the two that I want to focus on in our world is innovation. So that's if you're looking to develop something and going to the marketplace, but it needs R&D, and I'll show you an example later. But our world is helping, like if you're going to pitch to an investor, that looks different than if you're going to a bank, or if you're identifying market potential and all of the pieces that are going to go along with that. And then our Small Business Development Center side, so starting and growing a business, there's a lot to it. And starting up a small business, and we help you navigate those pieces. And then as you are looking to transition, our world is also succession planning, business transition and valuation. So maybe you want to buy a business, right? And so we also work with the sellers too. And so there's a piece to get all of that to work and play out. In session 3, we'll talk about the process of buying a business and what that looks like, because that's different than starting one from the ground up, which is what we'll talk about in session 2. But they're all critical pieces in growing our economies and keeping businesses viable in the state of Nebraska. And so we'll look at all of those pieces through the 4 sessions and what makes the most sense for you. So hopefully, no matter where you are, unless you're in kind of this portion, we don't have an office in this neck of the woods. Whoops, excuse me, I went too far. You can find one of our great team members for sure. Okay, so let's dive in. So this is what our calendar of events looks like. All the sessions will be recorded. So if you miss one, and you can be in different ones, I will touch on a few things. So if you're like, you know what, I'm not buying a business, so session 3 is out for me. Or maybe you say, I'm not going to create something from scratch. I would rather do session 3. You can skip around. That's totally cool. And we will record all of them. So what's an entrepreneur? So Merriam-Webster, this is what it tells us. It's one who organizes, manages, and assumes the risk of a business or enterprise. If you talk to people in the world of entrepreneurship, this is just broad strokes of what it means and really what it means to each person. So it'll be interesting to hear what Chase says on what he thinks it means to him. And so because it's broad, there's just the opportunity to explore it and hear about this from people who are just walking it every day. And so with each session, we'll have a guest speaker and they'll talk about their journey, because that's who you're going to learn the most from. And so Chase is our first one, and then we'll have guests at each of the other sessions to help you understand what it's like from the boots on the ground. So kind of 2 pathways, and I've discovered this with a startup. So originally in my world was small business, Main Street. You are starting a boutique, or maybe you're starting a automotive service business or things like that. So that's kind of one facet of what we might call a startup business if you're going to start one up and get it going. Then there's the other facet that I'm kind of in now with the innovation ecosystem. And that's kind of the quote unquote startup. If you hear about it from like Silicon Valley and all of that, where somebody is taking an idea and they're not going to the bank, but they're getting venture funding or investors, and they're just scaling this business, and they are adding employees and really building, right? So those are your Ubers of the world. I don't think Tesla, but there's a lot of different ones, and a lot of times they end up being high tech also, right? So the software companies and things like that. So it just looks a little bit different in terms of the two models, but the terms are used interchangeably. And that was hard for me to grasp when I was in the world of small business, Main Street kind of stuff. But looking at the two pathways in entrepreneurship, whether you're like, I want to do Main Street, or you say, I have a new way to solve something, and it's with software, and my market is nationally or even globally. So both opportunities. So a couple of different examples just to help visualize that is, one is Bearded Buffalo Golf. So Nick is the owner in the picture here. So we worked with him, and he started up an indoor golf simulation facility. So you can take your putty, like, or the golf putter in his hand that you see there, and there's a screen behind him, and you just act like you're playing golf outside, and it goes into the screen. You can tell how far your ball goes down the course, and you can play like Pebble Beach or various nationally known courses. And so his is Main Street kind of a business. But then our team also worked with a company called Farmafield. And what they did is they created this investment platform for agriculture, where you can buy and invest in commodities and things like that and diversify, instead of doing like a stock market portfolio or things like that. And so their route looks different, and they did go after small business innovation research funding to test this idea and create a prototype and determine, does this make sense? And then they got additional funding to build out the platform, and they started as a faculty member with UNL, and then built their team with some, I believe, undergraduate students at the time. And now I think they're a team of like 30 people, and building this on a nationwide basis and scaling it. So two different kinds of avenues of entrepreneurship, but both very viable and contributing to the economy of Nebraska, and just great ways to address a problem that each of these companies saw. So, you know, one path or another may be right for you. And so with these sessions, we'll figure out, what does that look like? So at the core of any startup type, whether we're talking small business or Main Street or startup high growth, is passion, right? A passion to create something and to solve a problem. And so that's what I want you to think about when you're having conversations with each of these entrepreneurs that we'll meet, is what's their passion, and what did they see that they could solve a problem or create a new opportunity in the market. And Chase, without a doubt, has passion, and you will find it for sure. Chase Meyer is the founder and creator, alongside his wife Shauna, of Nest Space, a fabulous co-working space in Kearney. I love it there. 24-hour tees and Doodle Tees, and I'll tell you a little bit about his journey. And then what we'll do is I will do some quick lightning round questions. Then you, as a participant, get to vote on some moderated questions, and then we'll toss it over to you. So I'm not hard and fast to making it all formalized and structured. So if you're like, you know what, I don't like your moderated questions, I want to dive in, drop them in the chat. We want to fill the chat and make it fun too and interactive. And we're in a meeting setup, so you can unmute and take your camera on, or show your camera, and we can have a conversation, as opposed to a webinar where we talk at you. So we're going to be talking with each other, and really learning about what it means to be an entrepreneur from a fabulous one indeed. So I'm going to turn it over to Chase to tell us a little bit about his world.
Let me come off video here. There we go. Hey, everybody. Hey, this is cool. I appreciate you doing this. Appreciate you putting this on. Entrepreneurship is a wonderful thing, and we need more entrepreneurs solving problems and being passionate about whatever it is they're passionate about. So that's great. So what do you want from me? You want to hear my 101 or what?
We want to know, I guess, first tell us about Nest Space, Doodle Tees, and 24-hour tees for those who may not be familiar. We have folks from across the state. So yeah. Tell us about your amazing businesses.
Cool. So Nest Space is a true passion project. It's one of those things that the vast majority of businesses that we build because we want them ourselves. We're solving our own problem of providing some sort of thing out into the world, building something, creating something that strikes joy in us, and then that's kind of like the resonance. That's the deeper side of business for us, is not only do we have to like it, but we want to strike joy in others in everything that we create. And Nest Space is, I've been in business for a while. I've been in business self-employed for like, I don't know, 15 years or something like that. And I'm 38, and over the last 15 years, I've failed a ton, I've grown a ton, but one thing that I know I really wanted this entire time was a really sweet office. And I've never had a sweet office before. I've always I worked out of the basement of Barista's coffee shop for like 2 years. I worked from my kitchen table. I've worked in like a storage facility. Like I've basically had like rundown, do the job sort of offices. So Nest Space, it's a collaboration. It's a concept of a shared workspace. From my perspective, it's the future of how professionals will work. It's a mix between a high-end coffee shop and a 24-hour gym in the sense of its business model. It's a subscription, so you can subscribe to Nest Space for $300 a month, and that gets you 24-hour access. It allows you to sit in any one of our 65 dynamic seating areas. Everywhere you sit has easy access to power. And we have really cool things going on. We have like hanging chairs and couches and standing work desks with secondary displays that you can plug your laptop into and extend your screen to get more work done. We also, beyond cool seating environments, we cover all the very basics you need in a shared office. So we have a shared multifunction printer that you can send your print jobs to, and it uses your Nest Space print credits. If you run out of credits, it's 25 cents a page, so super cheap to make it happen. We have a full kitchen that allows people to bring their own food, bring their own beer, and they, clearly if they're 21 or over, and they can warm it up and they can do their thing whatever hours a day they want to, which is really wonderful. When I work from like 2 a.m. until I work in the morning, 10 o'clock until basically 7. And then when I put my kids to bed, I'll come back and I'll work from like 10 to 2. Last night it was 10 to 3. And I got woke up at 7 o'clock by my girls, riding on 4 hours of sleep. But Nest Space is the reason I can get so much done, because it gives me all the premium amenities that I want, right? Free coffee and tea, fastest internet in Kearney, and you can't come in unless you have a pass itself. So it's a really great business. It's a little forward for what Kearney's used to. We have to educate a lot of people, but the co-working model is coming on strong in rural America, and we're helping with that. 24-hour Tees is, and by the way, I'd love to answer any questions you have about Nest Space, where it came from, all that stuff too, because I could talk about it for a year. 24-hour Tees is a custom apparel and accessory printing company. And we've been printing custom apparel and fabric-based accessories for people for like 8 years. And we work with businesses. We do thousands of items in our big print facility. And then we also do onesie twosie sort of orders. So if someone wants a birthday shirts for their little kids, we can do that sort of stuff as well. When we started building 24-hour Tees, it was just the idea of allowing self-expression to be on the chest of whoever wants it. Our chests are billboards all day long for whatever message we want to share. And so we just wanted to put into the hands of people the ability to create low quantity or high quantity self-expressive pieces. You can do it for business, general logo stuff, or you can do something a little more creative. We help all with the process of design and all of that as well. But that lent itself to us recognizing that when people actually felt like they had a hand in creating their final product, they were really they were really joyful about it. They, even though our designers designed it, they were able to tell us what they wanted, and we kind of shaped it for them. And when it was all done, people were like, "Look what I made! Here's my shirt." And I think that that joy and that emotion spurred us to dive deeper into that concept. So we asked ourselves, how could we take this printing business and turn it into a scalable business model, an actual retail product that we could sell nationally. We could sell at boutiques. We could sell potentially on Amazon or even potentially big box stores. So we, after about a couple years probably, we came up with the idea of Doodle Tees. Doodle Tees is interactive apparel, and our first version of it is designed for children. So we have newborn size to 2T. Those are designs that are the parent or the actual brother or sister or cousin can color on behalf of the littles. And then we have a 3T up to youth or adult medium. And those are designed for the kids that can color themselves to be able to use fabric markers, and they can actually draw directly on the shirt inside of our unique graphics that are all positive and uplifting. And then once they draw on the shirt, it permanently dyes the fibers and they can wear their art. And it's a really, really interesting thing. We're really excited about it. We are selling in some boutiques locally, and then we're starting to expand our reach. We have a trade show we're going to in Florida in September, and it's a wholesale trade show designed to get thousands of independent stores to know about us. It's a fairly new product, our retail product, Doodle Tees is, but we're like so pumped because our daughter, when she takes those fabric markers and she colors on that shirt, she feels empowered, right? It's not just self-empowerment, but it's self-expression. And she is away from her tablet or the TV for 30 minutes to an hour at a time. So if one t-shirt can provide that sort of intensity and clarity, I think we're on to something. And we're coming up with some other ideas. We have a glow-in-the-dark edition of Doodle Tees, it's called Lights Out edition. We print black glow-in-the-dark ink on black shirts, and then the white part gets colored in. And then when the lights go off, all the black elements glow. And so it creates a really interesting thing. We're also coming out with another product called Doodle Tees Dots, which is geared more towards youth to adults. And this will be, you know how those wine parties are. You can actually get your friends together, grab some squeeze paint that we ship with the shirts, fill in each dot in the color you want, and then when you're done, it basically looks like a mosaic. When you back up, you see the total image. It's really exciting. We're pumped about all the things we're doing, and yeah, I'm thrilled to be able to be in business in this way.
All sorts of fun things. So Chase, where are I meant to ask you, where are the boutiques where we can get these shirts? Because I've got a birthday party next weekend that I need to buy a gift for, and this is perfect for the 8-year-old.
Yeah, Sweet Child in Kearney. They sell them in their main retail lobby. They're probably the easiest to get. If you don't, otherwise, we have them randomly. Like there's like 5 other states that sell them. But doodletees.net is our website, and you can go there and you can order any time of day.
Yeah, I'm excited. The little neighbor girl, she's an artist, and I think it'll be great for her. So what I'll do next, Chase, is we'll do some quick questions. We'll get it started. Whatever comes top of mind for you, and then we'll do some moderated questions, and audience members will get to vote on what resonates the most with you.
Okay.
And then drop things in the chat too, things that resonate for you, or you're like, oh, this is in my mind right now. Like, I want to know more about this. Or if you have some great graphical ideas for Chase, maybe on Doodle Tees, you're like, I want this as a shirt.
Yes.
For sure. Drop some of those things in. So first thing, Chase, when did you know that you were meant to be a creator and an entrepreneur? I mean, was it when you were 5 or sometime thereafter?
No, you know, I had I've always been creative. I've always been a problem solver. I was into art. When I was really young, I liked to draw a lot. And I think that evolved into it evolved into me just creating illustrations, right? Creating art, creating ceramic pottery, just getting my hands and creating something for myself. And I think when I really first knew was I started making hemp jewelry back when hemp jewelry was cool, and maybe it'll come back again. I don't know, but I created like a few pieces of hemp jewelry in high school. I was 16, and some of my friends wanted it, and I was like, man, this is like really meditative. This is something I can just sit and I could watch a movie or I could do whatever and just do this thing, and I got really proficient at it. I started creating hundreds of pieces a week. And I just was like obsessed. That's part of my personality, by the way. I'm obsessive in when I like things. But I created hundreds of pieces of hemp jewelry. I would go to craft shows and on the weekends, and I would sell the jewelry, and I would make like $600 net profit in a weekend. And I was like, you know, this is really cool. I can create things that other people appreciate. And now I just need to refine ideas and take all the other business ideas I have and build upon them. So I think my first business, Gilang, is what I don't know why I called it that. Some foreign cool name. That was when I knew I could actually turn it into something, and my brain just does not shut off. I record all my business ideas down, and I have hundreds of them in a notepad.
So is that a suggestion for people with ideas? Just jot them down and see which ones start to stick, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Simple Note is a really great app. It's free. It syncs with your computer and your mobile device, and it allows me just to generate a note on the fly or add to my business idea list or add to my quote list or add to my book to read list, right? And I can just brain dump, and then later I can come back and review if I want to.
Perfect. So what gets you excited about the work that you do every day? What's your favorite pieces of all of it?
I think ultimately it comes back to crafting experiences for others. Because if I was doing this just for me, then I would, and I have in the past, I have done businesses just for me, but they're not nearly as successful as when I focus on providing joy to other people. And I think that is really what motivates me. I've owned an event business in the past, and I will own one again because I love throwing events for people. I love spending 20 to 40 hours of work to develop this event, all the marketing, all the branding, all the sit down with my eyes closed and visualize how the event plays out. And then I actually make that come to fruition. And it's all about providing some sort of positive, joyful, creative experience for people. When I see people like walk into Nest Space and they're just like, what the hell is this? And how is this in Kearney? That is like a moment, right? That's like my wife's and my brainchild became reality, and it continually is refining. So yeah, I think giving joy to others is for sure. That's the reason.
Well, I have joy every time I come into Nest Space. Also, it gives this vibe of like, I go there for strategic thinking. When you like get out of your own space, your own head, and your office area, it's a fabulous vibe for sure. So yeah, you created it for sure. Carrie, I'm going to jump to your question, and I'll hop into some of mine. You must have known, like, that's exactly how I've got one phrase later. So we'll take it now. Chase, what do you wish you would have known when you first started your journey?
What do I wish I would have known? Let's see. Well, I think that everyone starts their journey, and most entrepreneurs, most people that want to create things, they're naively optimistic. And I think that's part of like the ingredient, the special sauce to getting into this stuff, getting into business, is we have to be optimistic. Because if we can't stay optimistic through the down times, we will not continue doing what we're doing, right? So I was naively optimistic, but I also thought that shit would just get handed to me, right? Like I also thought that people would be like, "Hey, you made a business. Here's my money." And so I think
it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I wish I knew that part of building a really great business is developing a great work ethic as a muscle. And I just like going to the gym. If any of you have gone to the gym, you understand that it's not just 1 week of working out. It is a consistent week to week, month to month until you have big results. Work ethic is exactly the same thing. It's developing habits. I always tell people, if you are comfortable working a 40-hour job and then having a 40-hour side hustle, and you can run that simultaneously for months, then you're ready to go full on your own business. But if you can't, then you're really naively optimistic to the fact that you won't have to put in those hours. Any successful business owner eventually understands you can't do it without 80 hours a week, and more if you want to really thrive.
For sure. I appreciate the honesty on the hours, because sometimes that's a misnomer in my world, that folks think they're going to work less than they do now. And I'm like, no.
Not happening.
Maybe when you get closer to retirement and you've trained the folks underneath of you, but yeah, not yet. So oh yes, that was my third question, was hindsight's 2020. What seems obvious now? See, Carrie, you knew. You had it down. You knew what was. Did you get a sneak peek at my list? You did. So the last lightning round, and then we'll dive into the ones where people get to vote on what helps spark your creativity. Or, I mean, you're creative by nature, right? But for those of us that aren't, like, you got some good tips to spark that creativity?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I think that meditation is a really big one for me. I try to meditate every day, and it's some days are better than others. But ultimately, it comes back to meditation is just a stopping of the mind. Like, we forget that we are not actually our thoughts, right? We can choose to stop thinking. We can choose to do that. And when we're not thinking and our brain's not working, we're still there. We still exist. We're deeper than just our brain. And I think that as humans, other cultures think of thinking as a sense, just like smelling or seeing or touching. They think of thinking as a sense that we can utilize on or off. And Americans, we forget that. We have these loops of ideas that just roll through our head all day long, and too often they're negative, or too often they're not constructive. And I think that when you actually understand the concept of meditation and you can utilize it, you just stop the computer program, the automated computer program, from running, right? You just stop it. And then it gives you some level of peace. And what it does is it allows you to think at a higher level. So if I have a problem, I'm just processing, then I just say, chill out, like, step away for a minute, like, go meditate 15 minutes, whatever it is. And then I come back fresh, and I come back with ideas solved. Though that's a key thing for me, is meditation. Also, getting outside of my element. When you're too deep in, you're looking at something and you can't see outside of it. You're like inside the box. So you need to change your perspective. You need to shake things up, and it just means doing something different. Seth Godin calls it zooming, and it really just means digesting content from different sources, from different industries, and very often you'll find there's like the crosses and similarities that will solve your problem that you never would have noticed if you hadn't done that. So that's another really big one. Also, I think beer is not too much, but if you drink some beer, it does loosen you up, and it allows you to think differently, right? And a lot of our business ideas came after a beer or two.
That's great. So I'm curious, drop it in the chat if anybody else does some meditation, you find it helpful for some creativity or thinking. I keep hearing about it on podcasts, and I keep telling myself, I will make time to do this, but making time is a matter of priority, right? And like you said, if it creates the opportunity to find clarity, right? Because we're too busy and all these thoughts that are cluttering the brain. So I think that's brilliant. So yeah, let me know if you guys have tried it, what you think. I'm curious on those that have done some meditation. I need to maybe take up the practice. I've heard you start with 5 and then roll into 15.
Sarah, I got to tell you this real quick. I heard if the reason you don't meditate is that you don't have time to meditate, then you don't need to meditate for 15 minutes. You need to meditate for an hour. So the less time you have, the more emphasis you need to put to it, because then it changes things, puts it all in perspective.
This is true. This is true. Yes, indeed. All right, so we're gonna pull up the poll. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm gonna launch it. So then you guys get to pick of these questions, which one do you want Chase to answer next? And if you're like, nope, I don't like these questions, there's a different one I want, drop it in the chat for sure. But this is to get your brains rolling and thinking on what you like. So we'll do some voting, and we'll tell Chase what the magical answer is. So I'll give you about 3 more seconds. All righty. So our top one is, when you're feeling uncertain or stuck, what's your trick for getting past it? Maybe beyond meditation, is there anything else?
Well, it's similar to what we already said, but there's another piece that I have kids. I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. And so you would not believe how many times I've watched the Frozen movies, right? It's like hundreds. And there's the second Frozen, well, I guess maybe all of them, but maybe it's the first Frozen, Let It Go, right? That song. I think that song is designed to teach kids a foundational level to just release things that are outside of your control. There's some philosophy behind that. There's a guy named Eckhart Tolle that is he's kind of like a spiritual philosopher worldwide. And he talks about this moment is the moment that we need to become our next best self. How do we know that? Because it's happening to us right now. We have a really unique perspective. Chase Meyer, my upbringing, my genetics, my personality, no one else has my exact same perspective, right? And because of that, I'm looking at a situation unique to me. If I'm looking at that situation unique to me, why would I get frustrated at it? Why would I try and really control it and grab it and shove it into something else? I just need to kind of embrace it. And if I can't embrace it, just let it go. Just let it be what it's going to be. And then it makes life a lot easier. That includes lowering expectations in some regards, because expectations are typically the main root of unhappiness in us humans.
Sometimes self-expectations, right?
Yeah,
self-imposed, and we don't even know it.
Yep.
All righty, I'm on to, let's see here. All right, question 2. What should Chase answer next?
I like these poll questions. That's cool.
Give it a couple more seconds here. All right, well, in polling, what do we have? So we'll share results. Oh yes, this is a good one. What do you recommend for maximizing time management with business and family life? You gave an inkling into that with the overnight hours. So what are your other tips and tricks?
Well, it's really tough. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, if you want to, so a lot of people don't look at businesses as anything other than something external, but I think that businesses are as much a being as a child is. A business cries, not in the same audible way, but it cries when your finances go down and your costs go up. A business it needs oxygen to survive, and that oxygen is money. It comes in and out. And the reality is, we have to treat, if we want to do a business well, we have to treat it just like a family member. So that cross between raising a good business and raising a good family is very, very difficult. The only way that I do it to keep sanity is calendars. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, but my wife and I, we schedule a date night on the calendar because it won't happen otherwise, right? I have a Calendly app that I send to everybody. I have a Calendly app for our Nest Space events, for 24-hour teas, in-store meetings. for anything. Any of our individual brands have a Calendly, and they all cross-reference my personal calendar. So if my personal calendar, I have a busy slot, all the other ones show I'm not available during that time. And it's the only way I know to manage all the things is I have to put these intentional constraints on my life. Otherwise, I double book and I forget things, and it becomes incredibly stressful. So I'm sitting down with my wife and kids, and we're starting to write things on calendars as a family for a monthly thing. They get priority, right? Take my calendar up, you're first, and then we go back to the business stuff, and that can fill in later. And as much as business is like a child, it is not my child. It's not going to survive on its own. It needs others. So I definitely need to put the energy towards my own humans to make them the best they could be.
That's perfect. You know, and I think I had read somewhere that said putting things in your calendar. I'm a color coder. And if you like make one that says like, this is like my time for X and it's in a certain color, and if there's not enough of that in a month, then you've got to reevaluate.
Nope. 100%.
For sure. I had one come in through chat directly to me. We'll do that before we hop into the next poll one. It is, what do you think we will be surprised most by within 5 years and within 10 years? And you and I had a little conversation. Maybe it's not as much surprised as what you see on the horizon. So surprised and kind of horizon stuff, because you're a forward thinking guy.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer the we part. Like what will we be surprised most? Who is we? I'm trying to define that. But let's say it's rural Americans. Like, let's say that's the we. I think that we will be surprised most about how leveraging remote work, gaining outside money, like from other cities and states in the country or around the world, and bringing that money into our own small towns. I think we'll be surprised at how much that's going to impact rural America to redistribute wealth. I think that if you can live in Shelton, Nebraska, or Gibbon, or wherever, Norfolk, or wherever smallish town in Nebraska, and you can make $60,000 and $80,000 a year by working for a remote job, a remote East Coast, West Coast, international job, you're going to have a lot more available to you to invest in the community, to invest in your own lives, and to make everything overall better. And that's going to be one of the biggest surprises I think we'll see in the next 5 to 10 years.
And there's examples of that even at Nest Base. There's two gentlemen that work for for a company in Dallas and one in California. And they said, our world is here, our lives are here, but there's opportunity with these companies. And they said, we want to make Nebraska work. And I think that's incredible for sure.
Yep. And they can't make the wages they're making locally. I mean, that's the reality, right? You can't make that $80,000 job in Shelton unless you're specifically agriculture or rancher or something like that. Not for graphic design.
Right. As long as you're not place-based, indeed.
Yeah.
All right. So Darren wants to know, so during a startup, when you ran into a problem that you didn't have the skill required to solve the problem, something maybe you weren't great at, did you recruit assistance? Or what kind of talent, paid or unpaid? So how did you seek out solving problems that maybe weren't within your own wheelhouse?
I think that that depends on what season of life I was in, right? Like my current season of life, I'm much higher level thinking. And so I solve problems differently now than what I used to do. What I used to do was like, I try to throw money at it, or I try to throw hours of labor at it. And those things are slow, antiquated ways. Lateral thinking is one of my skill sets. And that is sidestepping the traditional thought process to think of an alternative solution over here rather than facing it directly. And I think that now it's more about I am a chronic learner. I will learn until the day I die. I did not stop learning at school. Actually, I think school made me learn slower than I learn on myself by my own. So right now, I go to YouTube. I have a masterclass account. I have Skillshare, lynda.com. I basically have all the major platforms to learn computer software, to learn general concepts. I take Khan Academy, electrical engineering courses on my own in my free time because I want to understand the fundamentals of electricity. And then I keep going down all the different things. So for me, if there's a problem that I don't know, 100% I could hire someone, and I do bring in consultants that know this stuff better than me, but I still fundamentally have to grasp what the concept is. I have to grasp why it's a problem, and then the potential reason or potential ways to solve it. So I will always be, even though I'm not a programmer, I 100% can communicate in programmer language because I understand the terms. And even though I'm not an electrician, I can communicate with two electricians in the terms that they need to know, right? And so part of it is like self-knowledge. I do solve a lot of my own problems by learning about topics.
What about accounting? Do you farm that out entirely, or did you say I figured out how to read a balance sheet? Or do you let Shauna deal with the accounting part?
Yeah. No, I have a profit and loss book that taught me about basic balance sheets, and I had to understand it at minimum. I do not like accounting. It is not my jam. I don't. It's not a good use of my time. But at the same time, I got to know it, right? It's a responsibility I have.
Perfect. That's exactly why I asked, because there's different skill sets, right? And your skill sets don't always align, right? Because you're visionary. So visionaries don't always like the detail, which is the accounting, but it's important to have the basics. So, if you hired somebody for the job, whether or not they're doing it correctly, or if they're burying money, you don't want that for sure. So the basics, but just having, then also knowing, not my wheelhouse, I will pay somebody for that role for sure. So I will drop in question 3.
By the way, I love technology. I'm just sitting here in my office and I'm hot, and I just open up the Nest app and turn the temperature down. Oh, that's so cool. What a cool world we live in.
You can just click buttons and away you go. All right. Yeah. I think, by a close margin, the third one is our choice. So talk about your transition from employee to entrepreneur. What did you expect and what did you experience?
Yeah, I think I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. I expected instant success. I expected, one of my first bigger jobs before I went out on my own was I worked for Daryl Albers at Computer Hardware, and he has 4 stores across the state. And I was like a sales guy, and it was easy for me. It was easy for me to talk to people and understand the human psychology elements of why people buy things, and the quickest way to get them to the point where they can communicate with me what they want. And I felt like because I was so good at that, I did it for 8 years, that it would just be just as easy when I went out on my own, and it wasn't. So that poor expectation of instant success was really tough. I carried that through for years. I had years of struggle starting out business, and it just wasn't easy. The only reason I got through that is I have an incredible tenacity about my personality, that if I believe something is important, I just won't stop it, and until I no longer believe it's important, right? Or there's a better solution. But I would say that was my biggest thing, is I expected instant success and it was not there. And I would say plan on 5 years. Plan on 5 years of slugging away 80 hours a day, or I'm sorry, 80 hours a week. That'd be a lot. 80 hours a week. And then at 5 years, you probably are going to be onto something, because at minimum, you're going to fail a lot. And failing is a really great thing. It teaches you everything you need to know about the opposite end, the other side of the coin, the success part.
Well, I'm glad you kept persevering and
Yeah.
didn't say, not for me, because you've created some amazing things for sure. I will launch question 4. Okay. So how do you know when a new venture is the right one to take on?
I don't know if you can tell by my long hair and my meditation stuff, but I'm a little bit of a hippie in the regards of I'm relinquishing control to the universe in some regards, right? Whatever you want to call it, God or universe or whatever. My phrase is when the stars align. And there's a term called synchronicity. If you don't know that term, you should Google it. It is a very real and very powerful thing. But it basically means when things line up in sequence that you just kind of have to do it. And there's no other way to explain it. If you pay attention to your surroundings, you will have people mention something to you multiple times. You'll have opportunities arise to you that doesn't make sense why they would have even arose. Past tense of that. And so I think that that's the first bit for me is I'll think of an idea. I'll write it down in my little book, my little notepad. And if the idea keeps coming back in my mind, or I have Facebook ads or people texting me relating to the idea or something, then I'll start to think about it more seriously. And then I'll start poking holes in my own idea. I have to ultimately break it. That's the goal for me, is if I can break my idea and prove why it won't work, then I can choose whether I can fix those reasons or not, right? Are they fixable reasons why it won't work? And if they are fixable, great, it gets me on that next step. That's the next filter. Then I have a third filter, and that third filter would be, I always ask myself now, today, if I'm going to start a business today, is the idea scalable? That's a key factor for growth and success. Is there passive income opportunity with it? Because the reality is, if you have to spend $80 every time you make 100, and there's no way around that, you just have to do it every single time with human labor or your own labor, that's not a scalable passive model. So if you can generate more profit for your business, money is oxygen, lifeblood, then you have more opportunities to pay people better, more opportunities to have a higher end product. So scalable passive income. And then I ask the question, does it make me happy? If it makes me happy, then yes, that's another filter. I got, this has to make me happy. Am I really going to spend 5 years of my life or more on something that is just about money? What is the point of that, right? Like that's silly. I don't care about money like that. I care about happiness. So that's a key. And then does it provide joy to others? And if it does, then I start to look at the actual 101, how would I build this thing? So I have a couple different series I go through now because I've refined it a little over the years. I used to just jump into ideas, and that was a horrible idea. I'd rather play the brain game.
That's a brilliant methodology for things. Yes, but it took time to figure that out. So thank you for sharing that wisdom from time, right, with the audience, that you can only learn from experience. And experience is the best teacher for sure. So if anybody has one final question, I'll take one final one, and then I'll show kind of a preview of what's to come. Okay, then I will go ahead and I'll share screen Give me just a second here. There we go. Thanks for your patience with it. So our office at Nebraska Business Development Center did a video series out in Western Nebraska focused on sharing kind of entrepreneurial journey and what it was like for different folks. So these videos are out on our website at nbdc.unomaha.edu/journey. And just telling about what it was like and how they started each of their respective processes. And so this conversation today with Chase is very similar, but this one with Chase got to be a little more self-directed by the audience in terms of you get to pick what we're asking and have that one-on-one time with Chase. So hopefully you're able to get some insight from him. But the video shown on your screen here, these folks really shared a lot about what it was like, and there's some really great details in it for sure. And then, so our next session 2, starting from the ground up, we'll dive deeper into just starting your own business, and we'll have another guest speaker for that. And that'll be 2 weeks from now. So these sessions are all spaced 2 weeks apart on Wednesdays from noon to 1. So that puts us at August 11th for the next one. And they'll all be recorded again if you can't make it within your schedule. And then we will send out a tool afterwards for you. So we've created self-assessment tool. What does it take? And really honestly asking yourself a lot of different questions. So there's 7 different sections that address various aspects of the business that you're going to experience to give you a real opportunity for some self-reflection to say, okay, what do I need to work on? What do I kind of have nailed down? So you are prepared when you're ready to launch your own entrepreneurship journey. So we will get those sent out to you via email. And yep, that is it. So then we will hopefully see you 2 weeks from now. So on August 11th from noon to 1, Rhonda will be sharing out those links to the future sessions, or no, it's all the same link as today, which is perfect. And we'll get to the tools to you as well. So thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. And thank you, Chase. I always appreciate your fresh perspective and different way of thinking than me, the analytical thinker. So Rhonda, if you have any of the final comments.
No, thank you so much, Sarah, for leading us today. Thanks again, Chase, for being our featured guest speaker today, and hope to see you all in 2 weeks. And feel free to invite community members. This is not just for young Nebraskans, it's just Connect Young Nebraskans hosting it. So this is open to all. So feel free to share and invite others to any of our upcoming sessions.
Can I say one more thing? Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Well, so I just want to say, first off, Jamie Bright, good job. You just made a Doodle Tees order. I appreciate it very much. And,
Woo, Jamie.
Yeah. And then don't forget that there are so many people out there that could be your mentors. So if you have this entrepreneurship bug, just ask someone that you admire in the business community. And as long as it isn't inconvenient to their life, like if you're willing to be a fly on the wall and just follow them, most people will say, come into my life, see what it's like. And if you can help them throughout their day, even better. That's something I just did with someone, and we spent 3 months, full days doing it. And it was super invaluable for both of us. So that's an awesome thing to consider.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah, you never know. You don't want to ask somebody or be in their way knowing, that you commit 80 hours, right? But if the setting is right, where they're observing it, that's the best way, not just asking the questions, but experiencing it and being there in the flesh for sure. So thank you, Chase. And thanks everybody for being with us today.
Thank you.